So we're going to get started. My name is Chelsea Bianchi. I work with Brain Friendly Reading now after teaching and using that program for the past 2 years in my own kindergarten classroom. And I've gone through the certification process in the classes and learned so much. Kristen Dwyer is going to be presenting on syllable division tonight. And Kristen co-authored the Brain Friendly Reading program after seeing significant need. It's kind of like Orton Gillingham, but it's making it a lot more user friendly for teachers and parents and tutors and future tutors to help pretty much any child in your life. I'm really excited to listen tonight, and I will let Kristen take it away.
All right. Well, I'm happy to have you guys here. Tonight, we're going to really be thinking about how to do multi-syllable word work with children. And we've been layering skills one session after another. What we're teaching in the summer literacy series is exactly what we teach in our 30-hour training program, that asynchronous training program. And this next school year, we're so excited. We're going to be able to offer at least 5 full 30-hour training programs. Go ahead and get started. So if you've done syllable division work before and you are thinking, I'm pretty good with syllable division work, I just want to see what you're doing the brain friendly reading way, I'm going to show you a couple of twists. If you're brand new to syllable division and you're thinking, I have no idea what you're even talking about, that's okay as well. Both of you are going to be able to learn some key pieces to help you either begin this work or be able to expand the tools that you have in your toolbox to be able to work with a variety of children. So each session we started by talking about where we're at as a nation, with about 35% of our kids reading on grade level, another 65% not. In the state of Michigan, it was about 70% of children are reading below grade level. That is problematic for a variety of reasons, but it's not our children's fault. It's not our teachers' fault, and it's not our parents' fault. Ultimately, it's the curriculum that's being used in schools. And if you want to learn about that, go listen to the Sold a Story podcast, and you will understand why not only America, but many countries throughout the world are having such low reading scores and thinking that, well, this is the way it's been. It must be the way that it just is. But we know that we can change that. And our mission here at We Shall Read is that 90 to 95% of children read on grade level. And we know that's possible when we follow these steps to reading fluently. Now, we don't always have a control over this oral language development piece at birth, and it's why really high quality early childhood programs are important, and why training those teachers is especially important, because they're involved in doing all of this ear training with the children around our language and helping the children to be able to isolate the sounds in our language, helping them to be able to break sentences into words and words into syllables and syllables into sounds. And then we attach all those sounds to the letters. That's the sound symbol connection piece. The last few nights, we've talked about how to spell words and how to read individual words using arm tapping and some other word study skills. And all of that is underpinned by this ear training piece and this sound symbol connection. Tomorrow night, we're going to be doing this square about reading sentences and reading phrases and how we help the children to do the repeated reading that's necessary to grow in their accuracy, their speed, and their expression. And when children are able to do that with sentences, that becomes a transferable skill that helps them to be able to read connected text and books. This infographic is one that I normally don't share in these kinds of presentations, but for those of you who've been here for many nights, I want to share with you this level of sophistication in thinking about what the principles are of a structured literacy approach. So for teachers, you understand that many of your curriculums are balanced literacy. What is structured literacy? The base of it are those phonological skills. Next come those letter sound connections. And to read and spell well, those foundational skills must be developed. Often a struggling reader has holes in one of those two areas. Another piece that is very important is working with different syllable types. Here it's referred to as syllable work. There are 6 different syllables. We're going to talk about those. But the syllables help the children to see the patterns in our language. And when they understand those patterns, when the brain recognizes those patterns, then they read with greater speed and accuracy. A structured literacy approach includes the use of phonics, and brain-friendly reading teaches a phonetic way of approaching reading, where we take sounds and we blend the sounds together into words, and we take words and we break them apart into sounds. And if you hear people say, well, phonics isn't enough, they're not wrong. Phonics is not enough, but it's a piece of a structured literacy approach. So how can you bring the theory to life that I've just shared with you and help children divide words into syllables and syllables into sounds? We're thinking about those multi-syllabic words, words that have more than one syllable. Well, first, let's talk about the 6 syllable types, and then we're going to watch a video on how to arm spell 2-syllable words. We did a little bit of that last night. And then we're going to look at the first 3 syllable division pages that are in the Brain Friendly Reading program. There are 6 total. Tonight, we're going to cover 3. Now, keep in mind what we're covering in about 45 minutes, we might take 3 hours to do in a training because we're going to spend a great deal of time doing it together. So we're going to talk about syllable types with these 6 syllable types in mind. The top 3 are closed, open, and vowel consonant E. That's magic E. Those are the most common. That just means that in long words and multisyllabic words, you'll find that closed syllables show up the most, and open syllables and vowel consonant E's show up much more frequently than the ones on the bottom, the vowel teams and are controlled and consonant LE, which really means the final stable syllables. On the Brain Friendly Reading charts, the beautiful piece about the charts that I really appreciate when I'm teaching is that on the syllables chart, we have the closed, open, and vowel consonant E with a reminder about what those syllable types are, some example words, and the sounds that are the closed syllable sound, the short vowel sound. The closed syllable has a vowel closed in by a consonant. Sometimes it's more than one consonant. And an open syllable, the vowel doesn't have a consonant after it. Yes, this is true even in bro, can. Bro is the open syllable. These are the sounds the vowel makes in an open syllable. Then we have vowel consonant E, example words, and these are the vowels, the vowel sounds that are made with vowel consonant E. We're not going to tap the syllables chart. I'm just introducing it to you. Along the edge are the final stable syllables. The consonant LE, where there's a consonant followed by LE, this is a syllable. It doesn't have a talking vowel, but it's a syllable. It always stays the same. Its spelling never changes. It's very predictable. And that's also true of TION, SION, CIAN, TURE, and AGE. These sounds and spelling combinations always show up at the end of words. Of course, they could have suffixes after them, but they always show up at the end of words, and their spellings are really stable, and as are their sounds. Now we have on this chart that we talked about last night, all the vowel teams. Plus, we have this section here, which is the R-controlled vowels. Sometimes people refer to that as bossy R's. So on these 2 charts, we have a place to reference all 6 syllable types and the sounds the vowels make. And that's the tricky piece. We need the brain to recognize that when the vowel is closed in by a consonant, the vowel sound is short. When the vowel doesn't have a consonant after it, the vowel sound is long. Pattern recognition is often low in children who are struggling to read. We also need children to know that EI has two sounds. Do you know what they are? EI stealing E, EI vein A. There are two sounds here. The first one that appears in the chart is most frequent. We train the brain to remember those pieces by tapping the chart in a really low stress way. So when we're spelling multisyllabic words, we're going to break words into syllables and syllables into sounds. And then we write the letters that go with the sounds. And you might remember, if you've been in other trainings, that we're putting the first sound on the shoulder, the second sound on our elbow, and the third sound on our wrist. This is true whether it's a one-syllable word, a two-syllable word, a three-syllable word, it doesn't matter. We use the same pattern.
Spell the word stop.
Stop.
Yes. Now spell shut.
Shut.
So that's a one-syllable word, and she didn't quite get her hand up to her shoulder. That's not the key piece. This child's been arm spelling for a while. You'll notice that kids who become more confident, they don't use their whole arm. They use less and less of their arm to do it.
Your first word is grief.
G-R-E. Like G-E. Grief.
Yes. Okay. Next word is believe. Say the word.
Believe.
Believe. Good. What's first syllable?
B. B. E. B.
What's the second syllable?
E. B. Leave.
Good.
So you noticed her having to self-correct. She's not an expert at this yet. She's still working on breaking words into syllables and then breaking the syllables into the sounds. We call that phonemic segmentation. So my question at the bottom is, what does the child have to know in order to be successful doing this work? And what I mean is the arm spelling and writing. For them to be successful, they have to be able to break the words into sounds and the words into syllables and the syllables into sounds. And then they have to be able to hear those sounds and think, what letter goes with that sound? Or what are my choices for letters that can go with that sound? And what rules do I know that help guide what choice I'm going to make? All of that direct and explicit instruction is incredibly important for the child to get really close in spelling the word correctly. Doesn't mean they get it always 100% correct, but they are significantly closer than they are without those skills. And it makes their work legible, or if they're typing, they're able to get close enough that the computer can give them some options. So here's a 2-minute video that is an excerpt of a Tools in 10 that Erin Harden did. She's the host for the Tools in 10 on Monday nights from 7 to 7:10, followed by a Q&A and additional mentoring. And she's going to show you how to arm spell the VCCV words.
So when we arm spell these types of words, we pound each syllable and tap each syllable separately. If the word were napkin, we would pound it, nap-kin. The first syllable is nap, and we're going to put that on our arm, on our shoulder, nap, on our elbow, on our wrist. Second syllable, kin, and we're going to put that on our arm. At the shoulder, it, on our elbow, on our wrist. Let's try the word magnet. So first we're going to pound the syllables. It's a 2-syllable word, magnet. The first syllable, mag, mag. Second syllable, net, net, magnet. Let's try contest, contest. First syllable, con, con. Second syllable, test, And there we have our ST ending blends we keep together. Test, contest. Let's try one more. Album, album. First syllable, al, al. Goes just to our elbow, al. Bum, bum, album.
So that is how you arm spell the 2-syllable words. And when you ask the children to arm spell and write, you do it 1 syllable at a time. So the children arm spell 1 syllable and write 1 syllable, and then they come back and they might have to repound their word and arm spell and write again. We're going to do some practice with that in just a minute. That process is actually really important. And sometimes people think, oh, this seems really simple to do, and I'll do it with my kids are in the classroom. And they go through it and they arm spell the words once with their kiddos. And then the kids are meant to write the whole word. But by the time they've gotten to the second syllable, they've forgotten what the word is because they spent so much energy focusing on the first syllable. So each piece of it is really meant to be a scaffolding process, having those rungs of the ladder really close so that the child who has really low working memory, which is like the clipboard where you hold information in your mind to be able to do something with it, if their working memory is low, often by the time they're done with the first syllable, they've forgotten what word they're writing, and you have to go back and pound it again. And you doing it with them means that they're not failing, and you keep the lesson moving, and you're moving through the first word onto the second word, practicing the process. Because the most important piece here is for the child to have ownership of the process so that they can use it in the real world. The skills we're giving them are ones that directly transfer to their work, that they're being asked to do in all subject areas, not just their reading, quote unquote, reading work. Okay, that was a bit of a tangent of an explanation that hopefully helps you understand the importance of those pieces. And you know how you're going to know how to do it is because you are going to practice it. And when you practice it, you get more comfortable with it and more confident in your own skills so that you feel like, okay, I can do this with a child and not feel like I'm going to, be silly because I don't look silly because I don't know what I'm doing. So practice, practice, practice for you and for the child. And you can practice right along with them. You can make mistakes right along with them too. That's fine. Just own the mistake and figure it out together, what you need to do differently, and keep practicing till you both get it. That's okay. We're going to talk about reading multisyllabic words. And the first thing that we want to do is divide words into their individual syllables. So we take a word and we break it apart into its 2 syllables, and we read the word 1 syllable at a time. And you might find as we do this work that this seems really simple and straightforward. But imagine when you're looking at these pages that the child doesn't know any of the words that are on the page. It just looks like a long string of letters to them that they have not memorized yet. And they don't have an idea about how to break that word into smaller pieces and be able to read it 1 syllable at a time. This work, especially the VCCV 1 and 2, is especially beneficial for older struggling readers who are able to read 3-letter words. And you can start to work with them with the VCV 1 and VCCV 2, and they can start to see how they can start attacking multi-syllable words. You'll notice on the Brain Friendly Reading pages that at the top, there's boxes on each of them. Those are the teacher notes that have like a little cheat sheet in there of what you say, the exact words that you need to use when you're teaching. So there's not a separate teacher book. We use this one page as our reference page. And then each of these pages have Go Fish pages that come with them that can be used for additional reference. There's 3 pages shown there. In the book, there's also VCV 1 and VCV 2 that have 2 different syllable divisions, as well as the vowel. That's included in the training companion guide. So let's talk about the syllable division for VCCV. The first thing you want to do is mark the vowels. So if you have a word like magnet that Erin was showing you how to break apart for spelling, here's what you do for reading. You mark the vowels, they get a V under each vowel, and then you mark the consonants between the vowels. So that looks like this. The vowels are marked and the consonants between the vowels are marked. Then we're going to divide between the consonants. And ultimately, this is one long line between G and N and the two C's. But we didn't know how to do that on the computer, so that's what it looks like. But the child comes and looks at that VCCV pattern, and they draw a line between the two C's. And then they read their word one syllable at a time. And if you're working with them, I'll show you how you can help them to do that. But they read mag, net, magnet. And then they think magnet. They say it several times with you. Do we know what a magnet is on the refrigerator? You can give them a reference point so they can create a picture in their mind of the words that they're reading. There are VCCV words that are like in this column where we mark the vowels, we mark the consonants between cactus, cactus, tablet, tablet. Can you read the word at the bottom, the nonsense word at the bottom? We mark the vowels, we mark the consonants between. What is that word? Can you read it? Did you say klimbaz, klimbaz? If you did, it means that you know how to decode that string of letters. You know how to read each of those syllables, and your brain knows that I says if and A says ah because it recognizes it as a closed syllable, even if you didn't know what that language was. There's a slight variation with this work where we teach the children about how to syllable divide words when there are two consonants in the middle, but both consonants aren't voiced when we say the word. We don't say rabbit, rabbit. We don't double say the B, right? We don't say connect, connect. We don't double say the N. So this lesson is to help children understand that there are a large group of words where the consonant is doubled, but we only say it one time. And we teach them for spelling that when you say rabbit, about why we need that extra B right here in order to keep that A short. And then can you read the nonsense word at the bottom? Remember that every word a child goes to read that they don't already know is in effect a nonsense word for them. So this word is slodent, slodent, slodent. What's a slodent? Oh, we don't know because it's a nonsense word, right? But if maybe it was something real and you didn't know what it was, then you would have to learn the vocabulary for it. And that's the position that the children are in. You can find more extensive lessons on how to do the syllable division work too on the Brain Friendly Reading YouTube channel. And we're going to do some more work here on the document camera in just a minute. The third page is where we have more than two consonants between two vowels. And this is where the blends chart becomes particularly helpful, because we can look for consonant blends and other chunks when we're syllable dividing and keep them together. When we have the word 100, we mark the vowel, we mark the consonants between, because remember, the child doesn't know this word. If they knew how to read the word, we wouldn't need to mark it. So we're attacking a word we don't know. We mark the vowels, we mark the consonants between, and then we have several consonants here, don't we? Do we recognize anything from our chart? And the child who's doing this work has tapped this blends chart. They know what these consonant blends are that come together, and these are ones that come together frequently. That's why they're on the chart. And they go, oh, DR is on the chart. And we can say, well, let's keep DR together and divide this word here. And now let's try to read it. Un, hun, hundred, 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 hundred. Yes, do you know what 100 is? And you keep articulating the word with the child, showing them how they can say the word several times and see if they can pull up that picture in their mind. Here's another example of a word that had where the vowels were marked and there were 3 consonants marked. And so we looked and we said, is there anything up here that looks familiar? And the child may or may not recognize the NG. You might end up pointing it out to them. Oh, I see an ING. That is on our chart, isn't it? Let's underline that whole thing. So this is kind of a nuanced example, just so you can see. And then the child reads the word 1 syllable at a time. Ing, ring. And they might already know the syllable let, ringlet, ringlet. I don't know what a ringlet is. And then you explain what a ringlet is in someone's hair. Quickly. These are really quick pictures that you try to help the child create in their mind. And if you know the child and their background and something about their family and where they live, then and the kinds of TV shows they like and all those pieces, it's helpful to be able to make references. When we find H brothers in the middle of the words, they get marked with a big C. So here's an example where we came across a word, we mark the vowels, we mark the consonants between, and sometimes children will mark both the T and the H with little C's. And then you go to look and you say, oh, is there something there on our chart? Yeah, oh, the TH. Well, let's keep it together. And it might end up looking exactly like the 100. In Orton Gillingham, we're taught to teach children to give that one big C to say that the H brothers never get divided, that we never divide between the H brothers. They stayed together. They are glued together, that T and that H. Whereas sometimes in some words, even though we find a blend, it does make sense to divide between the blend to make the word be pronounced correctly. Here's another extension off of that page, that when we have 4 consonants or 5 consonants between the vowels, we're going to start looking for 2 and 3 letter blends. And usually the 3-letter blends stay together, but they don't always have to. Here's a word where we mark the vowels. What do we do next? Mark the consonants between. That's the pattern that you teach the child. That's the pattern they practice so that they can use it when they come to a word they don't know. We mark the consonants between, and then we looked for something that was on our chart. Maybe the child would just see the ST instead of the STR string stir. You can help them to see the STR. It doesn't really matter. They're making a choice about where to divide it. Construct, 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 construct. Oh yeah, we say it like construct. I'm going to construct my railroad track. That does have an S sound when we say it, doesn't it? So you can introduce to the children this what is called a schwad vowel, but this idea that sometimes the vowels don't say exactly what they think they should, but often we can still figure out what the word is. In this word, we had 4 consonants. Again, we marked all of our vowels, we marked our consonants between, and we looked at this first section. Oh, no, we didn't. What we did is we looked at this E at the end. Whenever we have an E at the end, we're always going to look at that first. And we're going to say, can E jump over 1 consonant to make the vowel say its name? It can. So we know that this is a vowel consonant E syllable type. So now we can look at this section and we can say, do we see anything from our charts here? Oh, I see ST star st. I can underline that. And let me try dividing right before it. That might be the correct place to divide. But the children can try out multiple places and see what it sounds like. That's part of the fun of exploring this work, is to let them play with it, let them play with the sounds. First syllable sand, second syllable is stone. In the brain-friendly reading lesson sequence, we tap the chart, we do sound dictation and review. That's exactly what's here on the actual teacher planning page. This blue square is simply a small reference chart for people to use in their classrooms or when they're tutoring or to share with parents. We're going to teach the new skill and then engage in some word study, which includes many of the things that we've shown you. Tomorrow night, we'll be doing the phrase and sentence work. We get that meaningful repetition from playing the game. Maybe we're going to need to teach some puzzle words. And once we do the syllable division work, we are going to include syllable division in every lesson that follows, whether that is part of the review or whether it's part of the new concept work, but they continue every lesson to practice the syllable division work that they have learned up to that point. And like I said, the 6 syllable division pages, if you don't have the training companion guide and you're interested in those pages, on the Brain Friendly Reading website, and there's a QR code for it. This is what it looks like in real life. You have your VCCV1 page, but for many children, if you put this in front of them, especially if they're under maybe 4th grade, they're going to go, that's a lot of words, and there's not much room to write. But older children do benefit from having this page, and they can use it like a worksheet where they come in and they mark the vowels, they mark the consonants between, and they divide, and they read it, napkin. They can come down to the next word and mark the vowels, mark the consonant between, and divide, sunlit. This entire section is done that way, where there's extra space to mark the vowels, the consonants between, and divide, kid, nap. Do you notice how I'm covering the second syllable? That is the way that you help the child who is a serial guesser. Do you know those children, the ones who will start to read a word and they'll just guess a word based on the first few letters or how long the word is? If you cover the second syllable, you force them to read the word 1 syllable at a time. Mark the vowel, mark the consonants between, and divide. Nutmeg. You'll notice that this work goes from simple to more complex. We also have a section here where we mark the vowel and we mark the consonant between, and we're using our Y gem I, where Y says I in the middle of consonants, system. So there are many different pieces of this page that you can work with, and you would never do the whole page with a child in one setting necessarily. You would work with part of it and have them do the marking and then come back and read those words again, read them again, and read them again, so that they read them at least 3 times. If they mark them and they aren't fluent readers with those words, and if they are fluent readers, why the heck are we marking them? So if they're marking them and they're reading it, napkin, sun, lit, id, nap, nut, meg, then you stop right there and go back and, oh, great, let's read them again. Napkin, sunlit, id, nap, nutmeg. All right, you try it this time. Use your finger if you need to, and let them read the words, increasing their fluency each time. Speed and accuracy are our goal. If you can get them to read it 4 to 5 times, fantastic. There's research that I read that Dr. Stephanie Stoller shared that said that 4 to 5 times is really the magic number for helping to move those letter sound correspondences into long-term memory. So when we're thinking about the orthographic mapping process, really 4 to 5 times is better. Now, you might not get them to read this column 4 to 5 times. So you might create a game that this is a prefabbed game. Let's pretend like you said, we marked this column and you marked this column, and now you want to play a game with these 8 words. Well, you can create your own Go Fish cards that has these words that you've marked on it. So they've read them a couple of times here. Or you've marked them here and read them maybe twice, and now you're going to go to a second activity, which is the Go Fish activity that has the exact same words on it that you've been working with. That means you'll need to customize your game to match your prior instruction, but that's okay. You can do that. You could also give them a blank bingo board like this and take those 8 words that you'd worked with and dictate the words to the children. So just like Erin showed you, where you take a word, and I'll do one of these, where you take a word like napkin and the kids pound it. Napkin. What's the first syllable? Nap. So you arm spell it. N-A. Whoops. I always go to what's easier for me. Did you see how I made a mistake? That's exactly what I do with the children. Whoops. Let me fix what I'm doing here. I need to get my pencil ready to write. Now I can arm spell it. N-A. What comes first? What's in the middle? Ah. What's at the end? What was our word? Napkin. What's the second syllable? Kin. Let's arm spell it. What's first? What's in the middle? And at the end, And that language prompt is for the child who needs it. If they don't need it and they're writing it without those prompts, all the better. So you can take these same words and have the child fill up their board. This is tight for marking. In a lot of classrooms, I've gone in with this Go Fish page and had a lot of success with the children marking their page. They get a lesson on how to syllable divide first. And then they get to practice marking their page. But instead of marking their lesson page, they mark their Go Fish cards before they cut them apart to play the game. Same thing, mark the vowels, mark the consonants between, and divide. Can you see, if you're in a classroom, can you see yourself doing this on the smart board? And then you can read it. Napkin, napkin. Mark the vowels, mark the consonants, and divide. And you can even read on your arm. It's not something we've taught you, but when if you're in special education in particular, and you're looking at this first syllable, the children can go id, kid. Does that remind you of the other strategies that we've taught that we've worked with the children orally on putting the sounds on their arm, id, and then blending, kid. And then they do the same thing with the second one, and you do it right along with them. And then we blend those two together, provide as much oral support as is needed. Mark the vowels. What do we do? Mark the consonants between and divide. So they can mark their whole page, or if you've decided 9 words is plenty for the group that you're working with, have them mark just the 9, cut the bottom off, save it for another day. This could be saved for a review for in whatever capacity you want to use it. If they have their squares and their neighbor has a set, then they can play Go Fish, and they get the marking for the reading, decoding, that very close decoding, and then they play the game for the repetition. And you can hold on to those games or you can send them home. There's a game at this level where there's just 6 letters. There's a Go Fish game that has more than 6 letters, but is still the same. So even for a word, do you want a hard one? Let's do this one. Mark the vowels, mark the consonants between. Oh, did you notice I didn't mark that U? A lot of kiddos will. But I'm just marking these vowels because QU is a chunk. It stays together. It's on our chart that way. And then we divide and we read it. Quin, quintet. So this has words that are less familiar to the children with some variation on them. You can play bingo, and after they mark their whole page, then the teacher calls out a word, the children find it, and they exit, and you decide, oh, do you win if you get a column? Do you win if you get a row? Are you playing 4-corner bingo? Play. And I always play where we have first winners, second winners, third winners, fourth winners, until everybody in the room is a winner. And it means that kids win more than one time, but they also read all of the words on their bingo card. Everybody does. It's pretty incredible that they stay engaged until every child has one and their whole board is marked. And this is true even in upper elementary. On the VCV2 page, you'll notice that you have this division that's between the two consonants, like I showed you in the slideshow, and I'm marking them. And if children can mark them and read them, that's fine. The marking the vowels and the consonants and dividing is the whole process. But if you have a child who can come in and see that the division is here and read some, mit, summit, ballad, and then they need you to help, they need help with those schwab vowels, ballad, a ballad, and then you tell them what it is. If they need to mark a word because they can't read it, they can mark it. If they don't need to mark the word, that's okay, particularly as you get more experienced. In the beginning, I make everybody mark everything because we're practicing the skill of marking. But as they get more experience, if they can decode the word and they just need the line there to help them, that's okay. And if they get stuck, they can mark. Remember that for older children in particular, sometimes who have memorized a lot of words, that having nonsense words for them to mark and decode forces them to have to engage in this decoding of one syllable at a time. Kivlab. Okay. So got in your download the compound words, which are really the same as the words that we're talking about. We mark the vowels, we mark the consonants between, and we divide. All different kinds of skills that are in the Brain Friendly Reading program have these game boards where you can mark them exactly the same way as you mark the Go Fish pages, and then you get to play the game. So the children mark them first and then they play. And this is played just like any other. And I hope that helps you to have some ideas about how you're going to work with those materials with the children that are in your life, whether it's tutoring this summer or planning for next fall. What I would encourage you to do, if this is a new skill for you, if you feel like you're still developing this skill, is take those syllable division pages and practice marking them yourself. That's one of our requirements when we're certifying people to be brain friendly reading interventionists, and through the Mentor Me program, we ask people to syllable divide all of those different pages so that they have experience doing that work. And that means that when they get to working with the children, that they're going to know exactly what they need to do. Just so you know, there's an asynchronous training program through weshallread.org. It's grant funded, which is why it's $225. The Brain Friendly Reading program is normally around $1,000, but because of the grant funding, we're able to offer it at this significantly reduced rate. Like I said, this fall, we're going to have 2 trainings. We'll have 2 trainings in the winter and a couple of them in the summer in person. We now are able to offer sketch hours through our Mentor Me program. And we also provide professional development for schools and other nonprofit organizations. If you want to keep up with what we're doing, go ahead and join the newsletter at weshallread.org, and you'll be able to keep up with the offerings so that you can share it with colleagues if you're already trained or if you're thinking that's something you'd like to do. And you might already know that you can go to the YouTube channel for Brain Friendly Reading. There's probably like 100 videos that are all different pieces of the Brain Friendly Reading program. It's like a scattershot approach to teach yourself how to use Brain Friendly Reading. On the We Shall Read YouTube channel, there are various videos there by teachers who've been using this work in their 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade classrooms. You can also find the Tools in 10, the bite-sized 10-minute PDs that Erin hosts on the We Shall Read YouTube channel, as well as a series for tutors on how to establish and grow your business. We Shall Read is a 501c3 organization, so if you feel so inclined, we would love for you to make a donation. Every $5 we get helps us to tell funders that we are somebody that people appreciate, and to help them to be able to continue their generous contributions so that we're able to bring trainings just like this one to you at no cost. The Monday night group coaching calls will start again on July 10th, and those are free and open to anyone who's studying the science of reading. So if you know somebody who's trying to figure out about how to make science of reading work in their classroom, you can invite them to those Monday night group coaching calls, and they can ask questions and begin to learn at no cost. And the only part of those that's ever recorded is the first 10 minutes. We don't record or publish the rest of it. So any questions that you ask to the group, or any of your questions that you ask in breakout rooms individually with a tutor, is not recorded. So you can rest assured that all of that is private when you come to those sessions. So I encourage you to go to the website and fill out the contact us form, join the newsletter, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm on TikTok, sometimes ranting, sometimes sharing information. So you can keep up with us in all of those different ways. And we're hopeful that we're going to be having a golf outing in September. If we can get our act together, we're going to have a really low-key golf outing for fun, for a way to connect with like-minded educators and hopefully raise a little bit of money. And then we're going to have a casino night in January for the same purpose. Emily had her principal buy the Uno card decks today. And her principal called me and said, Emily is saying, I got to buy these Uno decks and she needs them ASAP. I think she only bought the nonsense word ones. I know. I don't think she knows that there's 4 decks. So she probably needs a little reminder about that.
She was having download issues. Because she's bought like 4 things I've told her for summer school. And she goes, I don't even know where I'm downloading these to. I'm like, but I need them. So let's figure this out.
That's so funny. I almost just sent her the PDFs. Emily works at one of the schools in Dearborn that where many of the teachers are doing the 30-hour training. And we're going to be doing training and providing in-class coaching and support next fall. So we're really excited about doing that with some of those schools in Dearborn. And we'll also be training, fingers crossed, it looks like we're going to be training all of the teachers who work with newcomers, with all those English language learners, which is about 90 staff members in Dearborn. It's the 2nd or 3rd largest district in Michigan. In addition to working with the special education teachers, which we've been working with for a few years. So maybe I'll see you in a classroom, Emily, one of these days, or one of our other coaches. So anyway, that's really fun. If you missed yesterday, we demoed how to use the Uno card decks, which are we've had them for about 1.5 years, but we finally got our act together. Finally got my act together with my team to edit them all and get them all put together and get them up on the website. And the teachers that use them already love these Uno card decks. The kids will play them over and over and over again because they love to play Uno. And it's the same as Uno, but it's just like the same words that are on the Go Fish card, but it's instead of being Uno, they can skip and wild, and being able to torture their friends is so much fun. So and that's the joy of bringing in the fun factor, right? That the kids forget that they're engaged in this reading activity that might be challenging for them, and they're willing to do the work, and they're willing to have their friends actually help them and coach them. And that's the other beautiful piece there too, is that the amount of peer teaching that happens.
One of the blessings of doing summer school, sorry, Chelsea, you were getting ready to talk. But one of the blessings that I have been able to do is teaching summer school right now is I have one struggling learner in my 2nd and 3rd grade rotation, and to watch his peers support him in these games, because he letter spells instead of sound spells while playing Go Fish, and they'll say the sounds back to him, and just to see that peer support and then them getting the opportunity to teach him has just been amazing to witness. It's phenomenal.
That gives me chills. That's the goal. The goal is to create that, to give children an opportunity to practice grace and courtesy with one another and to engage in what we talk about. We'd love for children to be like peer mentors, but how do you facilitate that? And this game playing naturally creates an opportunity for kids to be able to do it. So that's a beautiful testimony to that. I love hearing that. That might make me just cry a little bit out of it.